Hey everybody, welcome back to Up and Away, a comic book movie review and news podcast. My name is Joe Gilpin, joined as always by my effervescent brother.
Matt, you called me that several times.
It's always been correct. Usually it just means you're sweating up like crazy here in the summer sun.
Yeah.
You're not a fan of the sun.
No, and I'm kind of sick right now too, so it's my mortal enemy.
You're getting it from all sides. But anyway, this podcast where we get together, we talk about everything we can about comic book and superhero culture, and we review movies every Friday, which has always been a fun time. Today, we are doing the 2004 classic Hellboy, as directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Hellboy, like that boy.
Oh, exactly like that boy.
Oh shit, what up? That's Hellboy.
This movie was what was up.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the heck out of this movie. We're going to break it down in excruciating amounts of detail. It's going to be a great time. You ready, Matt?
Too much detail.
You ready to watch a movie where Ron Pearlman punches the devil?
Yeah, and he punches it into a key. He's the
key. A lot of problems in this movie are solved with punching. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the problem with these superhero things. Is like, boy, I sure hope there's a problem I can solve by shrinking really small like an ant today. Or
which is my power.
With super speed, because if it's not one of those, I am super fucked. Hellboy is a 1993 character as created by writer and artist Matt Mignola. And Mike Mignola, you're correct. He is a paranormal investigator from...
Hellboy, it's not Mike Mignola.
Listen, Mike has a lot of side projects. He is a paranormal investigator who is himself a demon, essentially. He has a slightly different origin that we'll get into in a minute when we get into the movie. But he has long been known as a gruff, funny, lovable character. He's a cult favorite for a lot of people. Would you like to start getting into the baseball card stats of this movie, Matt?
Sure. This movie's directed by Guillermo del Toro, which is always great, GDT.
This is when he was really starting to make a big presence for himself, Guillermo. He directed this, he directed Pan's Labyrinth, and these two movies really put him on the map, and he's been riding that momentum with other successes ever since.
Yeah.
And that's why he gets talked about all the damn time for Marvel and DC properties, especially DC.
He was in talks to do Justice League Dark. He had written Justice League Dark.
Forever.
He did a screenplay for it, and they just didn't pick it up, which seems like a mistake.
Justice League Dark, which we can talk about for Ron Pearlman, who stars in this movie as Hellboy, because he was always dancing around the role of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, he was GDT's choice for Swamp Thing. So, that makes perfect sense. Why wouldn't you do that? Everybody loves Ron Pearlman.
So when Del Toro had to fall back out of the contention for...
Pearlman was like, I guess I'm out too.
Yeah, Pearlman had to drop out too. Disappointing, but so
he's also in Pacific Rim, directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, he'll work with him anytime.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys.
He's like Nolan, how Christopher Nolan always has his boys. Guillermo has his boy. His Hellboy. Yeah, how about that link? Alright, so screenplay and story, both written by Guillermo del Toro. Starring Ron Pearlman as Hellboy, it's Selma Blair. Jeffrey Tambor was in this movie. Carl Roden, Rupert Evans, John Hurt, and Doug Jones making an appearance.
Doug Jones, one of his first comic book movie roles, I believe, but far from his last.
No, he is.
You have seen him in many, many things.
Many Guillermo del Toro things.
Yeah, he's been in Pan's Labyrinth. He's in both of the Hellboys. He was in Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer, as the Silver Surfer.
Not the voice of the Silver Surfer, I'm pretty sure.
He did the motion capture, at least, for it. He's known for his long, flowing physicality, and
it's great with,
he's been fucking all over.
It's great with CG work. It's like him and Andy Serkis, are the motion capture dudes.
I think right now he's a normal on that TV show, The Strain.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is Del Toro.
Is it? There you go. Why not? Just keep cutting those checks. This movie came out on April 2nd, 2004. Had a budget of $66 million. Joe, do you want to guess the box office intake?
I'm going to guess this movie. I know this movie made money. I'm going to guess this movie for $66 million made $110.
No.
How much?
99.
Hey, I wasn't too far off.
No, $11 million difference.
I did go over. Yeah. That's a box office success in a movie where they maybe weren't anticipating a box office success.
Got a sequel, too.
Did get a sequel. We had already had comic book movies, if you consider the time that we were in.
The genre.
We had the Batman movies, so we had seen comic book movies kind of rise really fast and then completely fall off a cliff, especially critically.
Yeah.
We were starting to come back with movies like the Blade Trinity series, even though Blade Trinity was fucking that up.
Same year, I believe.
Yeah.
2004.
We had X-Men, we had Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, it was just on the horizon. So a lot of things were happening for comic book movies, and Hellboy was a little bit outside the normal because he's not a Marvel or DC character.
No, but he is known.
His own little thing. He's a Dark Horse character. I believe our first Dark Horse Comics movie of any. There haven't been too many, and this is the first one we're doing. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Anytime we can break out of the Marvel DC dichotomy, I'm always really excited.
Do you want to guess the Rotten Tomato score? I will say, I think I agree with this score.
75%.
More.
80?
81.
Hey, there you go.
Got a B.
All right. I agree.
That's how I see it. I would grade it if I was a teacher. I'd be like, I'd give Hellboy a B.
I agree.
All right, you want to hop right into this bad boy?
Let's fucking do it.
Bad boy named Hellboy. So the movie opens with the voiceover of Professor Broom, who is John Hurt's character, asking a question that is important throughout the entire movie, I would say. He says, what is it that makes a man a man? Good question for a guy who's not a man.
And it is a question I like a lot because it is a question that we are going to get an answer to. A lot of times a movie will pose a question and then show you the answer. By the end of the movie, they're very explicit with the answer. And part of me really likes that. That's a change up. It also starts with a prophecy that I don't think they needed. There's a lot of times where movies will start with a prophecy or they'll start with text on the screen. Mm-hmm. For comic book movies, that really tends to not go great. I feel like they did it here. They did it in like Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
And it's never attached to a great movie. Pre-movie words worked one time for Star Wars. And that was it.
Well, just that whole franchise, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was basically a prophecy saying that the apocalypse will come.
Yes.
Something to that effect. So the movie opens on an island off the coast of Scotland in 1944, World War II, where young Professor Broom requests that military personnel be given rosary beads before continuing on their assignment. He is a paranormal investigator who is saying, like, hey, the Nazis on this island are doing some fucked up shit. And
he has a theory based off the fact that it's a cross-section of ley lines, which are places where the world spiritually, our world and the next world, are a little bit closer. Yeah. So if you're going to do some weird, fucked up paranormal shit, that's how you're going to do it.
Yeah, and everybody in this platoon, the military personnel, are all like, this dude's a fucking crackpot. So the American troops arrive at a set of ruins and find a group of Nazi scientists led by Rasputin and his mistress, Ilsa. They are protected by a mysterious figure in a gas mask named Cronin, who is reportedly, as they say, Hitler's top assassin.
Is it?
It's Hydra-like.
It is very Hydra-like. I was about to bring that up. It's very Red Skull. Mm-hmm. Obviously, this was years before Captain America, the First Avenger.
The movie.
Is it still fair to use Nazis in movies? And I wanted to bring this up when we did Captain America as well. I feel like it... When you do that, you can do that, but it makes such a statement for what your movie is going to be in terms of, we are taking on pure evil. You know what I mean?
Right. Are you saying that's because Nazis are kind of back?
I'm saying, no, not because Nazis are kind of back, but just because putting that forward as your antagonist, not to call it lazy.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But it's a little like, what's the worst thing you can think of? Okay,
Nazi.
We're going to fight that.
Yeah. I guess I do. I like I said when we were watching this movie to you, I said I love when they intertwine real life historical shit with comic book stuff, and I have seen documentaries to this movie's credit where Hitler and the Nazis actually did dive into the occult to try to win the war.
Yeah, they had some really bad ideas.
Yeah, they did, and so it's cool that this is a kind of exploring what if it was true. You know what I mean?
I'm very into it. I think in this movie they do it well. I think they do a lot
and Cap did it well.
Cap did it well. You have to do a lot to earn that.
Yeah.
If you're going to introduce the concept of 1944 World War II Nazis, you have to do a lot to respect just how twisted and wrong this worldview is.
Yeah.
And thankfully this movie does that.
It does that.
Not to say they're going to paint Nazis in a good light. Obviously they're not going to do that. But to gloss over it would be doing it a disservice. Thankfully, they do not do that.
And that's what this movie and Cap both did well. They never showed Hitler.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They talk about him a little bit.
That would get silly quick.
And then we go into like these rogue divisions. You know what I mean?
This movie does have a lot in common with Captain America, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Man Out of Time, 60-year difference. There's a lot going on here.
It's very true. Both lovable leads in Ron Pearlman and Chris Evans. Love to see that.
Those two are exactly the same. Sure.
I'd love to see that buddy cop. So They find this group of Nazi scientists led by Rasputin and his mistress, and Cronin is there, the top assassin. Rasputin attaches himself to this mysterious device that is designed to open a portal to another dimension and awaken forces known as the Seven Gods of Chaos.
Yes, the Seven Gods of Chaos, also known as the Ogdru Jahad, which are it's basically like a collection of dragons, from what I've been brought to understand, that are meant to bring about the end of the world. And they're one of the main antagonists in the Hellboy series, not because they're trying to come here, but because a lot of villains here are like, oh, I'll open up the door to the Ogdru Jahad and bring them to our world.
Similar to those Chitauri whales.
Yes, very similar to the Leviathan whales.
Yeah.
Although I think these are that times 100. I felt a lot more capability, and I felt a lot more destructive apocalyptic power from the Ogdru Jahad versus the Leviathans, which felt like brood animals, kind of. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just
they're being steered.
Yeah.
So Cronin...
By the way, love the impulse to make Nazis more evil. Yeah. We're going to have Nazis in this movie. What are they going to be doing? Even more evil shit.
So just as the portal opens, the American troops launch grenades into the site, killing some of the scientists in brutal fashion.
Yeah. I love, by the way, the soldiers get, like, found out, basically from a fat soldier, like, fucking things up.
Yeah.
That's, I swear to God, anything before 2008, like, if they had to have one person fuck it up, it was, like, the biggest, fattest person in the group.
Yep.
Like, to put across this, it was just, like, this weird understood feeling of, like, he can't get anything right.
He doesn't know how to diet, and he doesn't know how to be a spy.
He just fucks it all up.
Yeah. So Cronin attacks the Americans, killing several and wounding Professor Broom in the leg.
He's incredible. This whole movie, the choreography on the Cronin guy with the dual blades on both arms.
Yeah, he's total hoss.
That's who Darth Maul should have been.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to feel when I was watching a Darth Maul, not just a dude riding around on his chopper for a while.
So Broom crawls over to a fallen soldier and picks up a grenade, hurling it just beneath the portal. Cronin tries to remove the grenade from underneath the portal, but cannot get to it in time. Grenade explodes, destroying the portal and Cronin's right hand. Cronin is then impaled by a fragment from the portal and is presumed dead. Rasputin is unexpectedly sucked into the portal, which closes it. Brutal.
Gotta love a movie that opens with disintegrating Nazi wizards.
It's pretty great.
That's a great way to start a movie. I'll say overall, I think this scene, anytime they were talking, I was having a problem with it. Because I feel like a lot of the dialogue was a lot of, like, this is a really hard time to be... It all felt like cutscene dialogue before you got to the action. You know what I mean? But the most, like, base, let's not put too much thought into this, just get something up there dialogue.
Yeah. So, Professor Broom has his leg bandaged while instructing the remaining soldiers to search the island, fearful that something may have come through the portal before they could close it. So, Broom and another soldier suddenly encounter a strange red ape like little creature with a massive stone hand. Everybody's fearful except Broom, who manages to attract the creature with a candy bar, Baby Ruth candy bar. They realize that this creature...
Some serious product placement on the Baby Ruth candy bar, which I always appreciate.
It's almost as bad...
Hey, little baby, you want some Tide with bleach?
It's almost as bad as Power Rangers with Krispy Kreme.
Oh my God, do you remember how bad that was? Power Rangers, by the way, a movie that started out with one of the characters in the movie jerking off a horse.
It wasn't one of the characters in the movie, it was a side character. It wasn't one of the Rangers.
It wasn't one of the Rangers, but it was a character in the movie.
Who we never saw again.
Okay, yeah, he was too busy dealing with the fact that he jerked off a horse.
It was a bull.
Okay.
A horse. Get it right, Joe.
Okay, he jerked off a bull. My apologies. All blessings and peace be upon you.
Apology accepted. So they realize that...
Were you that actor?
They realize that this creature, whatever it may be, is just an infant and is essentially harmless to them. So the soldiers give the creature a name based on its demonic appearance, Hellboy.
This baby Hellboy is a real cutie pie. This whole scene basically ends up equating to a birth, I think you could say.
Yeah.
This is not the origin in the comic books. What do you think about this origin?
I like this origin.
You're okay with this? I didn't love this too much.
Snuck in through a portal created by Nazis. I dig it.
It's similar to his comic background. But I will say, when they went through the portal, it was very much like an outer space...
You wonder how we got
H.P. Lovecraft kind of place. It was not like a Dante's hell. Yeah. Like a classic Renaissance-style hell.
That's true.
So to mix those, I think was a little messy. In the comics, he's the son of a human woman and the demon Azael. And the mother ends up dying.
He's Raven, then.
He's a little bit.
from DC Comics.
Yeah, not Azrael. Azael.
I know, I'm just saying, but Raven...
Very similar origin.
Raven is the daughter of Trigon and a human mother,
Yeah.
and she dies, so it's similar.
Human woman dies. Azael basically gets, like, sent away in hell, and the child is sent away and then is eventually summoned by Rasputin around the same time.
Okay. I kind of like this better, but I do agree that they should have had, like, a Dante's Hell. You're right, like the typical...
Rather than, like, an H.P. Lovecraft style hell.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, that's when we get our movie credits. It's like, Hellboy. And we also see that he's basically an urban legend in society. We fast forward to present times, and he's an urban legend, like Bigfoot or other such creatures, which is where we see Jeffrey Tambor for the first time. He's on some sort of talk show, because he's the head of the agency.
He's Comey. He's James Comey.
Essentially. Well, he used to be James Comey.
He equates him to Yetis, to Bigfoot. What did you think about that as a statement about conspiracy theories in America today? Did you think that made any statement?
No. I don't think they were taking a stand for or against conspiracy theorists. But, I mean, I think this is more of a thing about government secrets.
Yeah.
Than necessarily conspiracy theories.
There was definitely a statement about government secrets because in that scene, Jeffrey Tambor basically says there is no Hellboy, there's no department, there's no BPRD, Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. Mm-hmm. That doesn't exist. Absolutely not. This is a total lie. The next scene is him walking into the BPRD to meet up with Hellboy and all the... So I felt like that was definitely a statement of truthfulness about the FBI by having him blatantly lie.
Yeah.
Is this what James Comey was up to? Is this why he got fired?
Yeah. Trump really wanted to find out if Hellboy was real. That's why he ran.
He was real mad that Hellboy wasn't a real thing.
Yeah.
But he's got the big right hand. It doesn't make any sense.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
This is bullshit. I feel like resigning.
He was on the movie. That's his thing. I saw the movie about him.
It was a documentary.
Yeah.
Professor Broom is being examined by doctors. The findings are not good. He has cancer, and not much can be done about it. On his way home, Broom sees his friend Tom Manning, played by Jeffrey Tambor. It's when he saw him on TV. And that's when Manning was denying Hellboy's existence. So, meanwhile, a dude on a motor scooter arrives at the BPRD, and he is John Myers, played by Rupert Evans, a recent graduate of FBI training, reporting for his first assignment, and little does he know it's at the BPRD.
Which is uber fucked up from the people in charge of him, by the way.
Yeah, well, from Broom. Broom handpicked him. He is taken downstairs by a secret elevator and ends up in a gigantic library with a water tank in the middle of the room. A voice asks Myers to turn the pages on some books, and a fish man-like person reveals itself inside the tank. That is Abe Sapien.
Do you know the voice?
David Hyde Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce as Abe Sapien in this movie. He will go on to be voiced by someone else in the next movie. You're going to think it's real dumb when we get there. I promise you.
Oh, you're not going to tell me?
Would you like to know just off of the top? I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for next week. You're going to like it a lot.
Ooh.
Couple of things. First of all, love using Myers as an audience surrogate to introduce us to all this. It's a very common comic book style trope. You saw it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You've seen it in a fucking dozen things.
And
the
everything?
Avengers. Yeah, basically everything. They'll bring in somebody new to an established world to walk you through it.
Yeah. So you can get all that good, juicy exposition.
They're about to do it with Inhumans. Giving Broom cancer and giving him a death sentence at the beginning of the movie. Why do you think they do that? Is that just to add stakes? Is that just to... Because it never really ends up paying off down the line, I think. I don't think they ever need that.
Well, I mean, it does play into Hellboy's arc a little bit, I guess. I mean, he gets... Because he calls him father.
Yes.
Because he was the one who found him, basically. And made sure...
And raised him.
Yeah, and made sure nobody killed him when he was first found. So, yeah, that is a problem.
I think that's a serious problem in this movie is that that cancer thing just has no meaning. And I think that's a common reoccurring problem with me in this movie. There's scenes and storylines and arcs that just drop at one point and really were unnecessary, fun though they may be.
Sure. So Myers is about to introduce himself, but Abe, the fishman...
Fishbulb, I call him.
Interrupts by reciting a number of facts about Myers, supposedly out of nowhere. Broom explains that Abe has a unique brain, allowing him certain telepathic abilities. Broom feeds Abe a few rotten eggs, which is a strange delicacy that Abe has a acquired taste for. Broom explains that this is the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense, and Myers is their newest ally.
During this scene, I think they also bring up that Hitler was killed in 1954. To retcon Hitler's death takes so much balls.
And then never pay it off.
And then never to bring... No, I just think it's a fun little thing just off of the jump.
Yeah.
I like that as just a little world-building detail. These guys have been fucking busy.
Yeah. So the scene shifts to snowy mountains far away. Ilsa and Cronin are hiking to a sacred location. They kill their guide and use his blood to resurrect Rasputin.
Yeah, he was... Rasputin gave Ilsa, is her name? And his people a book saying, if you have this book, you can always get back to me. Which is a little romantic, if we're being honest. He's really treating his lady, right? And they resurrect him in the Moldovan mountains. Takes them 60 years to do this, which feels like an issue. But the scene of the resurrection is very well done.
Yeah, it's very...
Love the... Yeah, he's
beautiful.
coming up from the blood. It kind of feels like... It's very Blade-like. It's very Blade-like.
Yeah, it is. I said when we were watching this movie, it feels like Blade could just walk in and everything would be cool.
And it would be no problem at all, right? And then maybe Punisher could show up.
Yeah, maybe. So, Myers is given a brief history of the BPRD and its activities, and is then introduced to his superior, Agent Clay. Broom gives Myers 2 Baby Ruth bars and wishes him well. Clay brings
so much fucking product. There's a lot of product placement in this movie.
Clay brings Myers into a huge vault. Well, they had to pay for the movie.
True.
And introduces the BPRD's pride and joy, Hellboy, who is now an adult, played by Ron Pearlman.
Ron Pearlman, who is chewing the fucking scenery like nobody's business. He's chomping on that cigar. You can tell he just had a blast making this movie.
Yeah.
You know?
So Hellboy is less than eager about the new guy, seeing him as just another of the endless security measures he must live under. Midway through their introduction, an alarm sounds and Hellboy joyfully sets out to go to work. A newscaster remarks that an alarm was triggered at a local museum and that there have been no responses from the guards inside. Clay brings Hellboy and Abe Sapien, who's wearing a scuba kind of suit to keep his gills hydrated, reporting that there's a large monster of some type inside the museum. So they're monster hunters.
They are monster hunters. They are paranormal activity detective kind of guys. One little small thing. Don't like that Hellboy eats cats. And they come back to it a couple of times. Not into it.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
Don't like it. That's Alf's thing. You stay away. That's infringement. You stay up off. Also, this is important. They show that there are, even though Hellboy is not, quote-unquote, to the public, not real, they do have comics of Hellboy. What do you think about that?
Similar to what we saw in Logan?
Yeah, we saw this as well in Logan, and that there were Wolverine comics. Comic books, in-world comic books, being a reflection of the hero that we are watching.
I liked it, especially when you consider the world. I mean, the myth of Hellboy was that he was a hero. So, of course, there would be comic books. You know, I think that's fine. Because they don't hit on it too hard. It's just...
Do we have... I am okay with that. But if we're going to do that, I would prefer earlier if we didn't put him on the same level as Bigfoot. Because it's not like there's Bigfoot comic books.
Sure, but Bigfoot's not a hero.
Not to you.
Not to me, that's true.
Bigfoot is a hero to hundreds of people out there, Matt. Hundreds of dumb people who deserve our respect.
So, Professor Broom explains that a statue was destroyed inside and something trapped in it was freed. Hellboy loads up his trademark weapon, the Samaritan, and goes inside to investigate while Abe tries to research what the creature could be.
Love the Good Samaritan. One of my favorite comic book weapons that we have run across.
So Abe finds the name Samael for this creature and tells Hellboy about it, just as Hellboy encounters the creature. Hellboy shoots the monster a few times and walks away, just as Abe informs him that Samael is also known as the Hound of Resurrection. So Hellboy turns around and is attacked, eventually thrown out a window. Hellboy encounters Rasputin, finding his voice familiar. Rasputin gives an ominous warning about Hellboy's future before Samael attacks again. Myers shows up and shoots Samael, much to Hellboy's disdain, because he does not like being helped. Now you're the one coughing. Hellboy attempts to reload his weapon when Myers notices a strange seed-like creature on Hellboy's arm. Hellboy rips it off and gives it to Myers, instructing him to save it for study. And it comes back.
Do you know what the name Samael, by the way, is a reference to?
I do not.
Samael is I believe, the biblical name of the devil before he is driven to hell.
Oh, yeah, I think
when
that's
he was
true.
still an angel.
Yeah. Good job, Jeff.
There's a lot of good action going on here.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed. I thought that they did a good job of following the action from punch to punch and making every blow feel meaningful. Part of the problem I had here, though, unfortunately, was I was still having a little bit of trouble understanding who Hellboy was as a fighter beyond just hitting people with his big old right hand.
Right.
You know what I mean? I feel like he was I'm going to smash him. If smashing doesn't work, I'm going to smash him twice as hard kind of guy. And I just don't know how powerful he is. I feel like I needed him to complete one mission for me just to see what he was about before we move on to anything else. You know?
Yeah.
And this, as his first mission, doesn't go well. We see him complete successfully one mission in this movie.
Yeah. So Hellboy is able to shoot Samael with a tracking bullet that leaks green fluid, making an easy traceable trail. Hellboy follows Samael through a crowd and across several lanes of traffic. Myers tries to
By the way, square ass out in the public.
Yeah. Myers tries to keep up, but is hit by a car and faces certain death before Hellboy returns to block oncoming traffic and allowing Myers to get across. Hellboy follows Samael into the subway system before briefly losing contact when a passing train goes over his head. Fed up with the fight, Hellboy just...
It goes through his head for a second, for a minute.
Hellboy, excuse me, he grabs the train tracks and electrocutes Samael. Hellboy is unharmed by the attack because he has a resistance to fire. Wanting some freedom, Hellboy turns off his radio and goes to see his old friend Liz Sherman, played by Selma Blair.
Selma Blair's in this movie. Let's put a pin on the big Samael fight, and then we'll move into the introduction of Selma Blair in this movie, who I'm a big fan of. I like Selma Blair as an actress. She's a good actress. So there was not a lot of effort given to hiding him in public.
No, that's true.
I feel like that was on his handlers. That was on guys like Myers and Briggs was the other one, was it?
No, it was, it started with a C. It's up
Yeah.
there somewhere.
Clay. And then Broom also. These guys had no contingencies if things went wrong, and I felt like this was just a big plot hole just to have him burst out of the side of the museum, almost into the middle of like a parade.
Yeah,
it
like a
felt
Halloween parade.
Like everybody was there. Halloween, by the way, a little on the nose.
Well,
If you're gonna do Halloween, that's cool. But tell me something like, oh, well, it's because it's the Day of the Dead and the planes between worlds are a little
closer together.
A little closer together. They're a little thinner.
Yeah.
Give me something. Give me something to dig my teeth into here for why it's Halloween, other than we think it would be funny to have Hellboy walking around with kids in Halloween masks.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why they did it. There was still a lot of good action in this, but ultimately, Hellboy did fail. Samael got away. I mean, he killed him, but then he would always resurrect 2 times over. Very Hydra-like.
We don't know that. He doesn't know that yet, though.
But it is very Hydra-like, right? Kill one and 2 more take its place.
Yeah.
Very Hydra.
So,
Selma Blair.
Selma Blair. She used to stay at the BPRD, but has committed herself to a mental hospital.
She is paranormal.
Yeah,
in
she's pyrokinetic.
Yes. But she is not in control of it. She's not even... she might not even be pyrokinetic as much as she is pyro-emotional.
Yeah. So, Myers and some other agents finally arrive to take Hellboy back. Myers looks up Liz Sherman's file and finds that she is a meta, basically, a paranormal person. And and then her childhood, she accidentally caused a huge fire that killed dozens of people.
A lot of kids.
Brutal.
A lot of kids were being real shitty to her. And she showed them
she
what was up.
incinerated them.
Yes.
So Hellboy is being, Tom Manning and Professor Broom are discussing Hellboy's latest activities. Manning is not happy with Hellboy.
Manning, the FBI guy.
Yeah, Jeffrey Tambor, whom he calls freaks. Abe Sapien uses his telepathy to show Broom what happened at the museum. What actually happened at the museum. Cronin was there, and he actually killed the guards, not Samael, while Rasputin freed Samael, enchanting the beast with a type of magic that will make 2 new ones rise for every one that is killed. So Abe learns...
It's a good spell.
Yeah,
it's a good trap card.
He also learns that telepathic exchange, that the professor is very sick. And Professor Broom begs Abe to keep this secret from Hellboy.
A secret that Hellboy will never find out. I don't think even after his death he finds out.
No.
Meaning there was never any use to it. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Abe did... No one ever did anything with this information. And so I just feel like it's wasted. Also, let's talk about the... I thought the telepathic scene of them going back in time was great.
Dope. Yeah.
I thought it was really fun. And I thought that Kanan was really put across strong about how capable he is as an assassin. Liked
Cronin,
a lot
yeah.
of this. Cronin. Also, Rasputin, they showed him in this. He has like this dark priest gimmick kind of going on.
That he does.
But he's dressed like a gothic Paul Schaefer, right? Like, it's a weird look at a lot of... Whenever he has, like, his purple little glasses on, I can't take him seriously as a villain. Also, we're about halfway through this movie.
A little bit. Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. This movie is we don't have a clear Rasputin plan. I mean, we get that he's trying to usher in the apocalypse, but that's really just from the first thing of dialogue, or like the text on the screen.
Yeah, I know he was trying to do that in the 40s. What is he trying to do now? How does having Hellboy here change that math?
Yeah.
What is he doing? What is he thinking? Why is he doing any of this? We never find out a lot of this information.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem in this movie.
So Hellboy is now being examined by Abe and Broom back at the base. They find a cluster of eggs in Hellboy's arm where the spore-like object was attached. Broom decides that Hellboy will go back to the subway the next day and look for any more eggs. These, of course, being Samael eggs.
Yeah.
Hellhound
eggs.
Yeah. That night, Rasputin visits Liz in secret at the mental hospital. He uses his powers to unlock her worst memory, the day of that fire, and activate her fire-starting abilities, destroying the entire hospital. Brutal scene. Yes. Hellboy and Broom discuss this the next morning while Hellboy files his horns, something that he does regularly to appear normal. Even though it's never going to work.
But I like that. I like that
Yeah.
he's going to take every step possible to appear as much like a man as he can.
Even though he's not even in public.
Even though he's not in public.
He's doing this for himself.
And he's never going to be... Well, I feel like he's doing it for Liz.
That's probably true, too.
I feel like he wants to give the people around him more normalcy.
Yeah, that's sad. So Myers offers to speak with Liz and hopefully recruit her into the BPRD once more.
Yeah, Rasputin essentially brought Liz back to the team.
Yeah.
But I suppose in doing that, he did offer a huge distraction, which will pay off later.
Yeah. So Hellboy, Clay, Abe, and two other agents return to the sewers to find the eggs. Abe jumps into a cistern to capture a cluster of eggs, but is attacked and badly injured by another Samael. The other two agents are attacked and killed by another Samael, which Hellboy chases after. Clay is left behind and winds up getting stabbed by Cronin brutally, who then apparently commits suicide. He has this kind of crank of a heart, because he's very mechanical.
He's more machine than man at this point.
Yeah, and he turns it really fast, and it kills him. He has like
convulsions. Yeah, he has convulsions. He seizes, and he dies. As well as we can tell, it's a very confusing scene, but it's a very interesting scene because you want to know the motivation behind that. Why did he do that? I thought a lot of the action scenes going on here were the best in the movie. If I'm being honest, I thought that was as riveted as I was throughout the movie, was watching him fight all these different hellhounds throughout the sewers, or throughout the subway system, rather.
Yeah, this and probably the 1944 scene were probably my favorites.
I like this even more. I put this above the 1944 scene for myself personally.
I dig it.
I did want to feel more that he was fighting multiple Samaels at all times.
Yeah.
I feel like he would kill one, go find another, kill that one.
You like more overwhelming, or?
Yeah, I just feel like he should have been fighting 3 or 4 at once. I suppose the fact that earlier in the movie they had one-on-one is a very difficult task.
Yeah, then it would have been
complicated. That'll happen a lot where, okay, Luke Skywalker is fighting one stormtrooper and he can barely win. Suddenly Luke Skywalker is facing a dozen stormtroopers. He also barely wins. He's fighting 1,000. He barely wins. You know what I mean?
It's like maybe that one was just real good.
Yeah.
So Hellboy chases Samael into a subway station, finally killing it again by smashing.
By the way, public again.
Yeah, by smashing into an oncoming train. And Hellboy returns, and he is shocked to find his friend wounded. That he almost feels like he failed. Back at BPRD, Manning reveals that Abe will recover, but Clay is too badly wounded and will most likely not survive the night. Manning and Hellboy
never see him again. Never get closure on whether or not Clay is alive.
Nope.
Which I don't like.
Manning and Hellboy clash, both angry about what has happened. Meanwhile, Liz has decided to come back to BPRD. So, Hellboy is in his room struggling to write a letter for Liz that describes his feeling for her when Liz comes in and reveals that she's going on a date with Myers. Hellboy is angry.
Which, by the way, I will put on her as just not smart. First of all, you've been there 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Second of all, you know Hellboy still carries this torch for you, no pun intended. Third, Myers is a dork.
Yeah, what a goober. And he decides to follow them that night on their date.
Yes, which is important because he is the one that is supposed to be there guarding anything bad from happening.
Yeah.
Just, holding down the fort. He's gone, leaving them defenseless.
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Broom is doing an autopsy on Cronin, where he learns that Cronin is over 100 years old and his body is badly mutilated due to a form of masochism. When the professor leaves, Cronin uses a type of clockwork mechanism to restart his heart. Awesome scene, honestly. And allows Rasputin into the BPRD. Cronin does. So Rasputin confronts the professor, taunting him for not knowing Hellboy's true purpose or name. Broom responds that as far as he's concerned, Hellboy's proper title is son, because he is his son. Rasputin grants Broom...
Because he's asking him what's his real name.
Yeah. Rasputin grants Broom a glimpse into the future, where Hellboy is responsible for Armageddon. Cronin then executes Professor Broom, stabs him through the back of the skull. Brutal scene.
Very brutal.
This movie could have easily been rated R.
Oh, 100%.
No
they were doing a lot to pull back on the blood.
Yeah. There's almost no blood in this movie. But so many people get slaughtered.
I like the assassin's surgical addiction. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for him as a Nazi, to have this obsession with quote-unquote perfection. Mm-hmm. And using surgical means as a way to get to that. I think that's a very interesting idea. And him, sitting up and, reassembling his body, it's the creepiest thing in the movie. I love it, and I wanted more of it. Having said that, I don't know, while all this is going on, they keep cutting back to Hellboy. And he is chasing that date that is going on, and that's what he's concerned about. And he's concerned that he is not doing enough to woo Liz.
Yeah.
A couple more things. I don't like Lovelorn Hellboy. I think every time they're spending time on that, I think it takes away from the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's such a harsh change of pace that they never really are able to find that momentum back and forth between scenes. It's always a stop and go momentum situation. Really don't like it. The death of Broom, very intense.
Very intense.
Did like this a lot.
Yep.
Especially it being Hellboy's fault.
Yeah.
Love that.
So, even though he was already going to die.
He was already going to die, and we didn't know that.
That would have been interesting if Hellboy was like, he died because of me. He died because of me. He kept saying, my father's dead because of me. And then everybody else is like, he had cancer, Hellboy.
Yeah, if Abe had been able to tell him, hey, man, he would have been dead in a week anyway.
Yeah.
And he died protecting you, which is what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really okay, but we don't have that scene. That's a scene that would go towards growing Hellboy as a character that we just kind of missed out on. Also, small plot problem I had. You have all this Sam Isle stuff the first half of the movie. And that is there, as we found out, to distract Hellboy. Right? Essentially, is to give him a big, difficult demon to deal with while they are getting their parts in place to bring about the apocalypse. Then, they don't need that.
Yeah.
At all. They don't use that distraction whatsoever. All they needed was Hellboy's girlfriend to show back up. So all the Sam Isle stuff, even though it's very fun, really, there's nothing distraction-wise or anger-wise or emotionally that you're going to get out of that you're not going to get out of just the murder of Broom.
True.
So it's fun, but for no payoff.
I agree.
Bummer.
I very much agree. Still a fun movie.
Still great.
Myers,
still enjoying it scene to scene, but when you connect them, I'm having some trouble.
So Myers and Liz are still on their date with Hellboy watching on a rooftop. When they are told what has happened, Hellboy is devastated by the loss, refusing to eat or speak for days. Manning takes over the BPRD, a job he does not really want.
He won't even eat no cats.
And announces that he will lead a team to Russia to find the source of Samael's eggs. In Russia, Hellboy is able to reanimate a corpse with magic and gets directions to Rasputin's mausoleum.
I liked that. I liked that guy a lot.
Yeah, just
a little, the guy on the back.
Little skeleton guy on his back.
Little backpack,
way.
Yeah.
The group ends up becoming divided inside, with Liz and Myers, going in one direction, and Hellboy and Manning going in another. Hellboy and Manning find Cronin's hiding place, and Hellboy saves Manning's life by attacking Cronin with his stone fist. Cronin attempts to lure Hellboy into a spiked pit, but Manning is able to throw a gear at Cronin, blocking his attack. Hellboy knocks Cronin into the pit and kills him with a gigantic gear. So Hellboy and Manning then have a fun little back and forth, being like, thank you. Thank you.
And this is where he showed him how to light a cigar, right?
I believe so.
I believe so. That felt like a reference to something that I didn't get.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because he's always chomping on that cigarette, and he's cigar, and he's lighting it with a lighter rather than a matchstick, which is what you're supposed to do for a cigar. And it just all feels like an inside kind of conversation.
Yeah.
A reference to the comic books. A lot of this is really fun. It just feels like I need more ethos from the villains to have it have an emotional impact.
Yeah.
I don't know
who these villains are. It doesn't feel like Apocalypse.
It doesn't feel like an Apocalypse. It doesn't feel like Hellboy really even cares about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like he's getting dragged along to this big final battle, but he's the one who should want to be there. He should be first foot forward.
Yes. And it also could be a thing of, they didn't really play it up in the movie as much as, like, him being like, this is my home, not hell. I don't want hell here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. It's almost like Superman with Zod.
Yeah, it very much is. Yeah, he is an Earthling. He was born elsewhere, but he was raised on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
He is nurture over nature, which is something we're going to get into in a second.
Yeah. So, Myers and Liz find the egg chamber. Hellboy joins them, but he's overwhelmed by several Samaels. Liz begs Myers to slap her, hoping that it will trigger her fire powers. It works.
By the way, this water fight looks like shit.
Yeah.
The CGI on it is very bad.
There's good CGI in this movie, but there's also some times where it's rough.
This is really rough.
Yeah.
And I think underwater with CGI, trying to get the splash patterns and everything right, it was just a little out of their reach. The reach exceeded their grasp.
Yeah. But for 2004,
Yeah.
So she incinerates everything, all the eggs and the doubles and everything. But Rasputin and Ilsa take the opportunity to capture Hellboy and his buds, his friends. So Rasputin wants Hellboy to use his right hand of doom to finally free the 7 gods of chaos. It is a key, basically. His hand. That's why it looks the way it does. Hellboy refuses, but learns that Liz is critically injured and may not survive. He agrees to Rasputin's terms and speaks his true name, Anung Unrama. Hellboy's horns suddenly grow to full length, and he begins to breathe smoke, seemingly having embraced his demon heritage.
He is full-on Dante-style devil.
Yeah.
He is as... If you ask a fever-dreamed priest to draw the devil, they're going to draw this Hellboy.
Yeah. So Myers is able to free himself before Hellboy opens the final seal of the gods. Myers begs Hellboy to remember who he is, and throws the prayer beads that once belonged to Professor Broom. Hellboy remembers that he does not have to be evil, he has a choice, and his father died so he could make that choice. Hellboy rips off his horns and stabs Rasputin with them. Dope.
It was very cool to see that.
Yeah. Stating that he doesn't need Rasputin to tell him who he is.
The horns as a visual metaphor, magnifique.
Yeah, great job, GDT. So Rasputin's death unleashes the monster, the last envoy of the 7 gods called Behemoth, that quickly grows inside. It basically comes out of him, out of Rasputin.
Yeah, I think you said, he was a squid dude the whole time.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I said he's full of spiders. So Hellboy gets Myers and Liz out of the room, and Myers gives him a weapon of cluster grenades intended for use on Samael's eggs. Hellboy has a long fight with the Behemoth before finally getting the huge monster to swallow the grenades and Hellboy destroying it. But Hellboy's fireproof, so he's fine.
Little bit of self-sacrifice, but not really, because he's fireproof.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like there's a little more, we could have goosed this a little bit more towards heroism, rather than just, he's going to punch him real good now.
You know what they could have done, and this could be stupid the way I phrase it, but they could have done, if they had not talked about the thing from earlier when he fried that Samael, because that's when he came out and said, like, I'm fireproof.
Yeah.
It would have been funny if he had been eaten by the Behemoth and he had their grenades and then blew it up, and then he was just like, oh, I guess I'm fireproof.
Yeah, that would have been pretty funny. I would not have hated that.
Like with Myers, he was like, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, if he's accepting death, but then it turns out, no. Yeah, he's fine.
He's like, oh, shit. So Hellboy returns only for Myers to say that Liz has no pulse. That's probably why you don't want to play the joke right there. Hellboy kneels down and speaks some words of an apparent prayer, and Liz opens her eyes. She asks what he said, and Hellboy says that he was talking to those on the other side, imploring them to give...
imploring is a nice word. Threatening is another word.
To give up Liz because he would gladly cross over himself to try and save her.
So he threatened God.
Yeah.
Is what I meant to believe. The hero of my movie.
It's Ron Pearlman, though, so it works.
He threatened God.
So she is moved by his sentiments and by the events of the last few days, and the two kiss passionately in front of Myers, which is funny. Liz fire engulfs them both, but But Hellboy, being fireproof, is unharmed. That would have been another thing. What if they had played up earlier where she's like, you know I can't kiss you because I'll just engulf in flames, not knowing that he may have been fireproof. And then at the end, when he blows up the behemoth, he's like, I guess I'm fireproof. She's like, come here.
Yeah, that would have been great. It would have been very reminiscent of Colossus and Rogue in the X-Men movies. Well, not the movies, but the books, rather.
The comics.
I feel like, just to jump back half a step real quick, the rosary that
It
Myers...
burned. Yeah, it burned into
It burned
Hellboy.
him. I liked that. It was never set up like that. In fact, I don't know if there was an emotional conversation between Hellboy and Broom this whole movie.
No.
They didn't really...
They didn't see eye to eye later in life.
They didn't really give enough on that relationship. They just had everybody else comment about that relationship. And I feel like that was a problem in this movie.
It almost felt like Hellboy was a teenager.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, they said, he's been alive 6 years, but he barely looks like he's out of his 20s. First of all, he's very bald.
Yeah,
so
he looks like Ron Pearlman.
Yeah, he looks like Ron Pearlman. This is not true. These are not accurate things you're telling me.
So it would have been interesting.
He looks like he's 45. He looks pretty good for 60.
Yeah. So that's true. Yeah. Hellboy's fireproof. They kiss. Myers stands on and concludes Professor Broom's earlier thoughts. Yeah, he's being cucked right there. He says like a great man once told me, what is it that makes a man a man? It's the choices he makes, not how he starts things, but how he decides to end them. And that's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie. That is the answer to the original question, what makes a man, how he decides to end things, his choices. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at that for all of the major characters. Hellboy, how does he decide to end things in this movie? He decides to end things with his love. His love lady.
His love lady.
I don't know if he makes a lot of other decisions on how to end things. I feel like he's reacting a lot to things. I guess he does decide to be a man.
Yeah.
Rather than a devil. So that is the ultimate up or down, thumbs up, thumbs down on this
good.
movie. He chooses good.
But he's always been good.
Broom. How did Broom decide to end things? Because I think this quote becomes a lot more interesting when you consider it through the lens of Broom. Because I don't know if he decided to end things as well as he could have.
He ended it hoping. He was hopeful that Hellboy could...
That was his emotion, yes, but I feel like he had put a lot of emotional distance between himself and Hellboy, his son, by the time of his death, especially considering that he didn't even tell him he was going to die.
Right. Yeah. So...
Fucked up.
They could have done a little bit better on that relationship, just a little more one-on-one dialogue. So... Do you want to go character by character? Or
yeah, let's go character by character.
Hellboy,
just break down how everybody did.
Ron Pearlman. We talked about his arcs in the movie, the what makes a man stuff. I just enjoyed the heck out of his performance.
I feel like it is rare for us to find someone who is having this much fun with a lead character.
Yeah, especially outside of, like, Marvel.
Yes, it's...
Like Chris Evans and all them, they seem to really, like...
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, but very much, this is who Hellboy is.
Yeah, Ron Pearlman's Hellboy.
Yeah.
So that is... it is one of the better lead characters we've had on our podcast, I would say.
I would absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree.
Another character I really liked was Abe Sapien.
Talk to me about why you liked Abe so much.
I don't know, I just really... I thought he had good character development. I thought he had a pretty fleshed out character, no pun intended, for as limited screen time as he had. I wish we could have seen him in combat. I wish we could have seen him beat some ass.
No, because the only time he was in danger, he got taken out.
Yeah,
when he was underwater.
He just tried to swim away. He didn't try to fight the Samael. So I would have liked to see him do like some cool underwater shit. Maybe him being hydrokinetic with his telepathic abilities, similar to someone like Mira from Aquaman.
Yeah.
But alas, I thought he was still...
He had very good intellectual powers, and he did bring a lot to the team.
David Hyde Pierce did a great job voicing him. Doug Jones did a great job with the physical stuff.
Thumbs up there.
Good job. John Hurt as Professor Broom, we need a little bit more.
Yeah, it just wasn't enough, right? It just was not enough to really... When you consider in Blade what Whistler was able to do in that emotional relationship and how much he had taken over his ward of Blade in that movie, John Hurt just really didn't rise to that same level. And I feel like those are two characters with two very similar arcs.
Yeah, Chris Christopherson's Whistler and John Hurt's Broom. Very true. I think...
Stick, Broom, Whistler, these guys are all just getting just the most basic noun-based names.
So, Liz,
Who else is in this movie?
Liz, Selma Blair. I think she did a good job. I could have used... I don't know if this movie needed a love interest.
I don't think this movie needed a love interest, but I did like the idea of her character. I think her character had a lot of interesting psychological things that they could have
Especially
delved
her
into.
being in a mental institution.
They did not do that.
No.
They did not use those things to delve into.
She was a damsel, essentially.
Yes, she was damseled. Except for the one moment where she did explode.
Yeah, all the Samael stuff.
But she was, for lack of a better term, she was an emotional love MacGuffin for Hellboy to...
And Myers.
And Myers. But, well, Hellboy especially to continue to have character growth.
Right.
And to have character moments.
Are there any more characters? Myers?
I mean, Rasputin.
Rasputin, I needed more.
He just didn't do anything,
Yeah.
right? There's just nothing there to grab onto.
Like, I remember it was about halfway through the movie, I paused it, I was like, alright, now what's the plot?
Yeah, what is this guy trying to do?
Yeah.
And we didn't
We
know.
weren't quite sure. And it never, I mean, we get told at the end, but it's like, oh. Like,
Yeah.
We did it at this point, though. Like,
Yeah,
it's
we already
done.
know that it's not gonna,
Yeah. So, alright, could have used more, whatever.
You ready to rate and rank this movie, Matthew?
I am.
Let's go to our big list of every comic book movie we have reviewed. This is number 47 on the list.
Wow.
Coming in at Hot 47. Right now, number 1 on the list is Captain America the Winter Soldier. Last on the list, I believe, is The Return of Swamp Thing.
Yep. That
This
porno
movie
that we
will go
watched.
somewhere in the middle. It is not the best, it is not the worst.
No, but I think it's closer to the top than it is the bottom.
This is a pretty good movie. It's weighed down by plot problems. It's
Yeah.
weighed down by the fact that the first half of the movie and the second half of the movie do have trouble connecting, and there are some plot holes in this movie. Having said that, the character work, I think, is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The design and the visual work is stunning, for the most part. And the acting, I think, is pretty good.
Yeah. No, there's a movie that I really think this is almost on par with, and that's Blade.
Better or worse than Blade?
Blade is currently at number 18 on our list. It is sandwiched between Iron Man 2 above it and Thor: The Dark World below it. And I think it's right in there.
At number 20, we do have Superman the movie.
Yeah,
This
which is
is
probably lower than how a lot of people would think, but go watch that movie. It is dated.
See, I almost am tempted to put it below Superman the movie, because I feel like this movie, plot-wise, does have some serious problems. We're not saying Superman the movie does not.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
It is in this neighborhood, though, right?
No,
Where's the lowest you could see this movie dropping
it's better
to?
than Superman 2.
It is better than
I think
Superman 2.
I think it's better than Punisher Warzone. I'm not willing to put it below that, because even Punisher Warzone had problems. For as fun shoot 'em up as it was, that movie did have problems.
See, for me, my bid would be to put it below Punisher Warzone, above Superman 2. Where's your bid?
I will concede putting Superman above it, but above Punisher Warzone.
Okay, I am
Slotting it at
comfortable with that.
21.
Number 21, Hellboy.
Yeah.
Comfortable with that. Matt, do you have anything else for the people?
I just want to say, good on Hellboy. You are in the good part of the list, because we always talk about the break. That is where our list goes. We feel that that Superman 2 is like the first bad movie that we've done.
Yeah. I think Superman 2 is the last
Or the last
good movie
yeah.
we've done, and then
Batman Forever.
Batman Forever is the best bad movie we've done.
Yeah. And so, good on you, Hellboy. You're
Top
good.
half.
You're good. You're above the break.
Yeah. So, next week we will be watching the sequel, Hellboy 2.
Golden Squirrels.
The Golden Squirrels.
Golden
is, that
Squirrels.
is that what you said?
I said Golden Circle.
Yeah, the Golden Army. Hellboy 2,
Oh.
the Golden Army.
Oops.
And so that's going to be exciting. And then next week we'll move on to a different movie or franchise. Tuesday we'll
I've
be
already
back.
picked. I know which one we're doing.
Fun, exciting, but still a secret. For everybody out there, Tuesday we'll be coming back with a Tuesday Newsday episode. Please tune into that. That'll be great. Find us on social media.
I just wanted to say, did you know Del Toro did this movie instead of doing Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban?
Should have done Harry Potter, I'll be honest. For
Because
everybody
then we
out
had
there,
more mythical beasts.
yeah, right? There was a lot for him to sink his teeth into. And also, there's only 7 of those bastards.
Yeah.
You could have made a Hellboy later.
Maybe
Come on.
Hellboy in 2006.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. I feel like I'm Reese Bobby in Talladega Nights. Like, shit, you coming second, third, fourth?
That always happens. I heard another athlete recently say, like Ricky Bobby always said, if you ain't first, you're last. Like, you didn't watch that movie.
Yeah, halfway through he finds out that's wrong.
Yeah, it's like damn, Bobby, fifth ain't bad.
Yeah. For all of us here at Up, Up, and Away, we'll see you guys soon here on the show.